All right. Good evening to each and everyone. Good evening to our viewers, everyone who is at home. I hope everyone is warm. Like I'm trying to be warm as much as I can, seeing that the weather has changed a lot. And on that note, I hope everyone is staying safe. It's been a few weeks. We haven't been on air. Couple of challenges here and there, but we always know where our priorities are, and that is to cater for you guys, our viewers. So, like I said, good evening to everyone. It is past 6 o'clock. I am Daddy Tabiso Mufikwe, and I will be co-hosting today. And later on, I will be joined by my partners in crime, my colleagues. That is Ibuse, hopefully, who is our producer, as well as our famous, and by now I don't need to do an introduction anymore, Daddy Koketo. All right. So, with that being said in mind, I hope everyone is comfortable. Get your cup of tea, get your blanket, switch on your heater, but always make sure you are comfortable. It's quite fascinating and it's quite interesting looking at where we are nowadays. So, without jumping too much, because I know myself, I tend to get carried away. What is today's topic? What are we talking about? All right. So the topic is generational fatherhood. All right. Generation fatherhood. What is generational fatherhood and what do we understand of it? So, I feel that generational fatherhood, just to define it quickly, it's when the character, the whole package as you being a father and how you do it, considering the future generation, considering the changes that we see on a day-to-day basis. And on saying that also, generational fatherhood is also taking a second and looking back in the previous generations. What were the things done that are still being done nowadays? What are some of those things that have changed compared to how our generation fathers our kids, how we carry ourselves out as fathers, and that is generational fatherhood. So the reason I was saying this topic is very deep. If you think about the topics we've had in the past couple of weeks, we spoke about things like dads raising daughters and raising girl children, and then so today our main focus is from the dad's shoes. What does it take or what does it mean to each and everyone when we say generational fatherhood, and what are some of the challenges maybe or experiences that we have? So when it comes to generational fatherhood, for me, one of the most interesting points is things like, for example, culture. You know, how I, as monna wa Motswana, ke tseba hore setso sa ka se re mmawe, se re ntatewe. And then nowadays we trying to make sure our kids, they're getting better education. Things like your multiracial schools and stuff like that. There's best education. But we tend to see a lot of kids who bua English engata. Not to say it's a problem, but we've heard conversations of our children losing their culture. So to me, that is where I'm starting my point of saying what is generational fatherhood. It comes back to culture. If I look back from my dad previously, I didn't get much opportunities to really sit down and talk to him about culture from a father perspective. And that is one of the differences where lately we've got youngsters who know that I can confide, I can sit down and I can ask questions. So when it comes to this culture, when I say, here's my son, here's my daughter, here's my children, let me first focus on the point of culture. I must not enforce culture on them, as previously some of the things were just enforced, and you were not even allowed to ask a question or two. Why? So I'm going to start with a very simple joke that happened even last night. My son had to cut his nails in the middle of the evening, about my 8 o'clock, and the first thing that came to my mind is that thing of as I said that to him, the first thing he said is, why ba? I found myself so struck, I couldn't answer him. Why am I not allowed? Why it's such things that I start the idea of generational fatherhood and then it grows into a bigger mushroom. All right. So this is where you allow your children to engage with you, and you allow them to ask questions about the culture that you're trying to pass on to them, as they will one day be the fathers of the next generation. Allowing them to decipher this idea of culture. And it is very important for me to say, as a father right now, that is one of the things I want to instill and I want to pass on to the next generation as it was passed on to me. The only difference here is, how do I pass it on? Allowing someone to enter that space and ask questions so that they can understand it deeper and have their own interpretation and understanding of what is culture to them. But of course, the idea of generational fatherhood might differ from one person to the next person. And that is why today we're just going to take a very laid back session where we're just unpacking this topic of generational fatherhood. So, without wasting further time, before I dive into over explaining my understanding of the topic, I would like to also invite our producer, who's mostly hiding behind the camera. He is hidely stepping in front, but I've managed, with the help of Dedi Koketso, to convince him and say, please join us today. So whenever he's ready, I think system and internet connection. Once he's ready, I believe he will join us. With that being said in mind, take down your notes on your side, write down a couple of your own questions, and then later on in the show, throw it into our chat box. Let's have a discussion. And also, you can visit our website, which is www.dadsinthepicture.co.za, just to engage with us, and possibly we could be getting some of other topics in future from your points. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, to our viewers, let us welcome Dedi Zebuse.
Good evening, Dedi. How are you?
I'm doing good, Dedi Z, and how are you?
I'm well, thanks. Good evening to the audience on this cold winter, but we're keeping warm. So just getting into the topic, I think there's this thing about generational parenthood that I've observed, right? So what happens is, with each and every generation, there seems to be a change in how the parenting is done. There was a time where our parents, those who were born during the World War, their parents apparently overcompensated. And then they raised a certain breed of children. And from those children, a different generation was born, and the parenting's kind of techniques changed. I'm even realizing now that even with my son, how I am parenting him, as well as my daughter, it's a different kind of parenting. It's not the same as how I was parented. The relationship that I have with my son, a lot of things we have to explain. We were never taught to explain ourselves. We were never taught that our parents have to explain themselves to us, But here we see it with ourselves, that we have to explain. I like the example that you shared about your son, Akuta Manani.
Yes.
The other one, it's cutting your hair, Epsu. Why are we not supposed to do that? Also thinking about the thing, Yauri, some of us now stay in places like the estates or the complex in townhouses and that kind of stuff. How you parent is different. Hunali, these things of children being kidnapped. Do you still let your children run amok until late? Some places they do, some places they don't. So parenting keeps changing, and I wonder how my grandchildren will be going forward.
100%. And from that point, especially how when you mentioned this joke I made about Manala, till this day, Daddy Z, I have not received the answer to that question. However, I remember when my dad once said to me, "Ska kutela Manala katlung," when I asked him why, he looked at me, "Bekere, is it because you guys didn't have electricity, so you couldn't cut your nails or your hair at night?" And he laughed and said, and that's where, like you said, we have questions to answer. And I think understanding that part and allowing your children that room, at least for them to ask questions and have better understanding of such things, it helps a lot. I think you are muted.
Yeah, there's another one. Thanks, Teddy. There's another one that
No
I
problem.
like, right? This one is about a lady who's so she used to observe her mother cook mealies. So every time, no, it was it mealies or was it fish? But whatever it is, I think it's fish that she used to cook. She used to cut in half, and then put in a pot. Cut in half, put in a pot. Cut in half, put in a pot. And then she never questioned that from her own mother. But then as she grew up, she was teaching her daughter how to cook. And she kept on doing this. And the daughter asked, "But why do you do that?" She didn't have an answer, but it is only when she went back to her mother and asked, "But why did you cook it like that?" Her mother said, "Well, it's simple, really. We never used to have big pots back then. So what we did is we had to cut it in half so that this thing can fit into the small pot." And so that then made sense. So some things were relevant then, but they're no longer relevant now. How we used to, our parents used to do things then is different to how things are done now. So we can't continue those things. There's another one for me as a father, especially in the house or even at church at times. I kind of feel very uneasy and uncomfortable when I see a male getting in the house and not taking off his hat.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
Same as when that very same person sits at the table to eat or just eats. And then worse, seeing a male go into a church wearing a hat. For me, it's still kind of ish, Mara. Why is this person wearing a hat? But when I ask myself, what is actually wrong with that? I never seem to kind of have an answer. It just somehow does not make sense, if you get what I mean.
100%, 100%. And with that being said, it just also reminded me, this afternoon I had a conversation at work with one of the gentlemen that we work together, and with the simple question of what did he understand under generational fatherhood? And to him, he said it all comes down to principles. Okay. And when he says it all comes down to principles, basically what he was referring to, and some of the words I quote from him, he said, generational fatherhood is how you conduct yourself, for example, in a community. You know that there are those respected men, and how you carry yourself and how you ensure, Uguti, I work on how my children and other children see me as a father, because he mentioned, Uguti, generational fatherhood is not only to your children, but to all children who view you as a man and as a father of somebody else. So when he focuses now on things like principles, for example, things like how do I put it? The manner in which he spoke to everyone in the community, they knew he's a respected man. And the way he spoke, and he spoke his mind with utter respect when he speaks to other people. I remember he mentioned that when his father was addressing people who did community forums and stuff, everyone would sit down and listen to his father because he spoke his mind and he spoke very slowly. But he never disregarded anyone, I mean, other people's opinions. So just by saying that, his principle was give full attention to someone and don't listen with the intention of responding. That made his father be respected. And that is one thing that he carried. And believe you me, when I say that is one thing he has carried, this is one person I always say, your listening skills and communication skills are out of this world. Something so small. Something so small. And he said, this is something I learned from my father. And right now, my two daughters, that's the one thing I'm teaching them. Always make sure that you say what is on your mind. But when you say it, you always consider the next person and how they are feeling and what is respect. So with that thing of it boils down to principles. That's when it made me think of the way I'm raising my son right now. I'm always coming back to myself. Sorry, Dedizi. The way I'm currently trying to raise my son. Remember, yesterday we had a conversation where someone is bullying him, and then I asked him. The first thing I said, "What do you think you need to do?" Before I say, let me go to school, or before I say, don't fire him, before I say, don't defend yourself or defend regardless, what do you think you need to do? So for me, the best principle that I always try to teach him is think, come up with a solution. Before I say, as a father, 1, 2, 3, no. What do you think? I'm always trying to push him to think. Did you unmute? Yes, we can hear you.
It's amazing that you mentioned that example about asking him, what do you think? It's a very powerful lesson, because then when he then comes back to you next time, he can come back and say, this is what happened, and I think, he then puts his opinion onto it. It's similar to, it's
No
similar
problem.
to when your child is struggling and you jump in very quickly or too soon to assist. We are kind of not capacitating them to figure out and find solutions for themselves. And it's something I've learned to do with my son, even though at times I get it right, at times I miss it. But there are those
we are human beings.
Exactly. There are those instances where I would just sit back and watch him figure it out. But what we also do is we deprive them from finding solutions by themselves and enjoying the reward of doing it for themselves. And that's where I think we need to also learn and step up as parents. I can understand it's not an easy thing to sit back and not come to the rescue when your child is struggling. The natural instinct is to jump in there.
Yes.
There's one thing I learned at coaching, that you need to allow the client to articulate their own words. When they struggle through sentences, we have a tendency of understanding what it is that they want to say, and we complete or we fill in the gaps for them because we want to get through the conversation. But we need to take a step back and say, I'm going to allow this person to figure out this thing for themselves. So you kind of, when somebody's saying, when somebody disrespects me, and then we want to then jump in and say, you feel like, but that's where we exercise that restraint. So similarly to our children, that's what we need to do, exercise that restraint.
100%, 100%. And the minute you start depriving them of fully expressing themselves in smaller conversations, later on, when they have to stand up for themselves, when they need to face the world outside, there's still university, there's the workplace where they will be faced with people who will challenge them. They will challenge them. So this is where you as a father right now focus on, how do I want to mold this person? But in my molding them, I want them to take the best natural form that they are. And then I will shape up and polish on the personality that they have. But giving him that opportunity of starting first with his own DNA. I'll be with you just now. I mean, this is the big man here. I'm in a meeting.
I know you can bring him on screen, eh? He can come on screen just to say hello.
Hi, Daddy.
How are you, Daddy? How are you, boy? Listen to me say. How are you doing?
I was coming from soccer practice.
And how was soccer practice?
It was good, thanks.
Awesome. So are you going to take a shower now?
Yeah.
Okay. Go take a shower and get warm.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks. Good night.
Night.
All right, Daddy. Yes, Daddy.
You see, that's another aspect of parenting that was never there for us. That when Daddy is like busy, do not disturb.
100%.
You just don't. It's taboo for you to do that. You're gonna get the biggest back, maybe like Varam clap or something. Mara, busy. You only come in per invitation.
100%. And there is one thing that I have managed to carry out. You need to sit aside until they are done. I see myself still struggling with regards to that today. I mean, even today there was a meeting, an informal meeting between my superior at work and another colleague, a vertical colleague, and I wanted to interrupt. I found it difficult. Whereas I see other people, they will just come, sorry, Daddy T, I say whatever, and I'm busy in a meeting. But I found it difficult today. I had to stand there, look at them in the eyes for almost 15 seconds before they looked at me and said, how can we help you, Thabiso? That's when I had to ask my question. Whatever I was saying, do you realize how something that happened when I was a child is now still carried out into the workplace and in my adulthood, And it's those things where we need to look back and take a step back and look at how we can change them and allow modification to suit our children nowadays.
Yeah, indeed. I think for me, though, the biggest thing for my wife and I is respect. And learning to ask and say thank you. Those we don't compromise. We were taught those things. We were taught to say thank you. You were taught to ask, and we cannot allow our children not to do that. So we even teach our son every time. Say thank you, say please, you must ask. For them it comes naturally not to ask, to say I want. And it comes across as disrespect, So we teach that respect is a non-negotiable.
May I interject with a question based on what you're saying? When you say you're teaching them respect, do you just teach them over to my son? You must always say thank you. Or do you personally also show them respect towards them, respect towards your wife? What is your definition of teaching them respect? Your approach, rather, not definition.
We do both. We model and also we verbally teach. So we would say to him, you must ask. Ne? But then when I then come back and speak to him and I want him to do something, I will ask him. Even if it's something I as a parent am well within my rights to tell him to do. I will ask him to do it because it's the intentionality behind it of saying he should learn to ask. So similarly, whenever his friends have come to visit in our home, there is no, this is my son, this is whose child, this is whose child. Any child who is in our home is a child, period. And if any child needs or wants something, they must ask and they must say thank you. So even when we discipline across. And if a stranger were to come in and observe how we interact with the children all together in the house, maybe let's say it's just my wife and I, and my son's friends are all here, all of them, we engage with them on the same level. Even when our son is wrong, we reprimand him. When the other one is wrong, we don't say, hey, kingwana mang mang. We don't say, we reprimand him as well, or her. When we prepare food, we prepare for all the children who are here, and they all eat. Unless one decides to go home or say, I don't eat this, but unless the parents have said so, you're going to sit down and eat. So we model respect. We model inclusivity. We don't model favoritism. We don't want to differentiate. Just now, as we were in conversation, there are 4 boys who are playing just outside, including my son. And one of them is a 12-year-old white boy. And I say that intentionally. So I don't know what it is that they were saying outside, but I heard him say, we are brothers. We are all the same. And like, for me, that was such an amazing moment that he doesn't see what us adults see, you know? And when our children then start differentiating and start being racist, start being classists, it is because they've been taught that by their fathers. It is because they've been taught that at home, that this one is like this, that one is like that, so you treat that one like that. So there is no such in this house. Welcome, Dedicate.
Good evening, moms. Good evening, dads. I fortunately could make it to the session. Apologies that we postponed last week, or 2 weeks ago, as it has been explained. Evening, dads. I see. Yeah. As sitting in the studio, the topic is already alive.
Yes.
Good evening, Dedicate. How are you, sir?
Evening, DDT.
100%. No, the conversation was heated. We just flew with it today in terms of just unpacking the idea of generational fatherhood. Welcome to the session. All right. So coming back to you, Dedicate. You mentioned respect. You mold it from 2 areas of 2 points, like you said, in a sense of teaching them don't do this, do that, and also yourself showing them that you can also respect how to do this thing called respect. It brings me to a question that was raised or asked to me. I think it was last week by one of my uncles. Generational fatherhood. We say and that's when I asked him a question, Kere, do you feel fatherhood nowadays is still the same as in the past, where biologically you just earn the title and it comes with your biological birth right? That's a father to be. Whereas nowadays, do we really have to earn it, or is it still the same where biologically we inherit it? Koketso.
It depends where you look at it from.
Yes, sir.
you father someone by your seed. Okay,
Mm.
you parent
Mm.
them, you become a dad, and you father them. That's your seed. Okay. Many can dispute that, but that's my view. And then
100%.
it comes to a level where whether you carry on with your plan as a father or you
Mhm.
fall flat. That's the decisions you make. And when we delve down to today's topic of generational fatherhood, um, you need to plant that seed that says to your children that it's not about now. Um, there's generations before me as a father, and there's generations after me. And
Mm.
once you start looking at it like that, and you start making them appreciate that, or helping them appreciate that, then you'll start seeing where this topic is about, or
Mm.
where
Mm.
this topic is going. We exist, Bontati,
Mm.
in just being the planters of seeds, and we don't follow through.
Mm.
But
Mm.
yeah, that's a sort of it. That's a short of it.
I think the word that stood out for me that defines it from your perspective is the word that says exists. So I think now it comes down to the thing of do we just exist or do we become present? And that is where that question of earning your position or being given that position by birth, as you're saying, you can see again, you can father a child by your seed. So nowadays with our children nowadays and how fast things like the internet is, they themselves exploring and how they express themselves, if I can put it that way, I feel as if nowadays as fathers we need to not just by biological earn it, but we need to also earn that position by being actually present. And this is where you can link it to many other examples, such as physically with me, my dad, we didn't play the way my son plays around with me. He will jump on me and we'll play boxing, jab. Yeah, are you with me? And that is where I'm saying the involvement and the presence that I give will earn me that position from mahlo a hae. And then Hakia Mahlong Abang, other children or his cousins, rather, if I can put it that way. One of his cousins, once he's older than my son, he said he respects my marriage and he respects the power couple that me and my wife are. And I was surprised already. Such a young fellow, he's 19. What is he even talking
Wow,
about?
at
Are
that age.
no. At that age, Are no. The way you carry yourself, Scary family gathering. When you are with, for example, my brother is a freestyler. What all? He will do whatever. His driving says a lot of things. Mara, this guy said to me, the way you do the smallest things, for example, how you drive to show what you are a father who has children to take care of. And that is
Drive as
me
in
saying,
drive a
I
car,
have to.
or
No,
drive
driving a
the
car. We're
relationship.
not driving a car. The way he drive on Koluyaka, he says, I drive in a way that makes him feel safe. It shows what I'm a father who's driving for children that he's taking care of. So that's where it comes down
Yes,
to me
with
saying, I
responsibility.
have to, yes, on a daily basis, I have to earn that position of saying, I'm a father. And I have to continuously make sure that my son understands and carries this with him for the next generation and the next generation after him. There is a Buse
Yeah.
on that question of earning. What is your point? I saw that a light bulb went on
Lady
for a
left
second
us.
there.
Lady left us.
Did they leave us?
Welcome
No,
back,
no,
Lady.
no, no. I'm still here.
Yes, sir.
It was just me just trying to disappear, but it looks like you don't want me to. But yeah, what's the question, Diddy?
No, I was saying in terms of it goes back to the thing, earning the title as a father. biologically versus you living to earn it on a day-to-day basis? What is your take and what is your thoughts about that?
I think, as Derek Oketso was saying, that most men become fathers through seed, right? And then it ends there. They know that somewhere out there, I am a father. There is a child, or they deny that even has ever happened. So what then happens is there are those men who never get the chance to have their own biological children, or they have chosen to have children at a later stage, right? And when they do that, they become fathers through the heart, through how they love, through how they nurture and care for children around them. I know some great fathers who've actually never had their own children, but that doesn't make them any less of fathers. There are fathers who don't have their children around, but the children who are in their presence, they have done so much for those children. So fatherhood is not just about biology, but fatherhood is a heart issue. Fatherhood is a responsibility issue. Fatherhood is a modeling issue, where you model both your successes, your wins, and your failures, right?
Yes.
And that's what we basically need to acknowledge, that as fathers, we can be fathers biologically, but we can also be fathers by choice.
Yes. There was an event I attended a couple of weeks ago, and I was asked to speak on behalf of There's in the Picture, and it was it was overwhelming, but I think I managed to do well. And the guys that were there, I won't mention them by name. They embraced the organization. They understand that. Look, as you were speaking, the disease, it goes deep. It goes deep. If we don't sow the seed now, as fathers or mothers, we'll be speaking about this 100 years from now. If we don't take a stand and start addressing this now, we might as well keep quiet. That was the stance there. Did you see?
Yes, I'm here.
You can continue. You can continue.
Okay.
I'm saying you can continue.
Well, look, this thing of us being fathers and taking action, right? It's a very important thing. For us, we can't keep talking. I agree. We can't keep saying the same thing over and over again. If I want my children to have a better future, I must act. I must model fatherhood. I must model inclusivity, so that they don't get to do those things. One day, when my son is doing something that is contrary to what I have modeled, to what I have taught, to what I've coached him, I can ask him where he learned that. I can tell him, go out there and bring my son back. My son or my daughter, whom I've taught how to behave. The kind of person that my son is or my daughter is not this person who's disrespectful, this person who's who's displaying traits that are just contrary to how they've been taught. There is so much that we need to do. There is so much that is yet left for us to do besides talking.
Yes.
But we have to lay the foundation. We have to mentor beyond our families, beyond our biology, beyond our family ties. We need to be present for every child, whether ours or not. When we start now, we would have laid the foundation, and our children will continue with that going forward.
Yes. Yes.
100%. Sorry, I missed you guys there. Koketso, sorry, I missed your opening statement. It sounded interesting because as I jumped in, I saw Daddy Z smiling and laughing. So I don't want to ask what was said. I'm going to leave it at that, but I'm going to highlight that I am jealous. And luckily, I'm not saying that.
Don't be.
Yeah,
I think
no,
it's Daddy Mish that will be jealous that I'm wearing a Daddy Mish hat tonight.
Oh yes.
Yes, I'm on a Mish hat.
So I've got another question that I need to ask you. Remember, not so long ago, we had the topic where we discussed raising a girl child and some of the things that were said. So now the question is, what is the link between or the difference between raising a girl child to raising someone who is going to be a father one day? I'm saying this because there was a question that came up in that topic where someone said, is it advisable or not advised to raise a girl child to be a wife? You remember that question? Let's not go into it. Now I'm coming to the point where it said, yes. Now I want to hear your thoughts about what is the link or the difference or the challenge or whatever you can put it as between raising a girl child to raising someone who is going to be a father one day.
I will.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay.
No, go ahead. Go ahead,
Denny. Go ahead.
I will say, as last time, I'll stick to that point. Let's not raise partners. Let's raise people that are complete. Let's raise. I think we use the word strong even on the day. And someone asked, what do you mean by a strong girl? Our children need to know what's ahead. I often, when I drive home being Korangua, and I meet my dad's peers, I ask them, why didn't you tell us what's coming up ahead? Like Chumang Tocho, that's what I'm gonna be to my children and their peers, and their friends, like be the torch, show them what's coming up. Show them what's coming up. I didn't know about marriage life from my parents. I learned it myself. Why? I don't know. I'm not gonna keep quiet. They will know. My children will know. I'm not putting fault on them.
Yes.
Maybe that was the norm then. I don't know if you guys get where I'm going. That was the norm then.
Yes.
But let's be that torch, and so that we don't raise partners, we raise people, complete people. If I may say again, strong people.
100%.
100%.
You must be honest and say it as it is.
And we
I don't see this, but yeah, they will.
100%. Derizi, what is your thought?
I think we come from a parenting that was preparing us for marriage and relationships. And that's why we then find a lot of people are either running to or away from marriage.
Mm.
That's why you find some women feeling incomplete because they don't have a partner. And that's why some women feel incomplete because they are not married and they want to push or rush the planning into marriage. But they're not rushing, some of them are not rushing into marriage, they are rushing for the wedding day, planning everything that they can for the wedding day, but not the life after. So we come from that lineage. So we cannot still be raising people who aspire to being married, to being in a relationship, because that would make them whole. That's why you hear romantic nonsense like, you make me whole, you complete me, I want somebody to make me happy.
But
nobody will
we
make
buy
you happy.
those albums. We buy those albums as fathers for our daughters, for our sons.
It's the very same nonsense that we inculcate into people's minds, into our children's minds, that you have to be married. We don't say to them, you are complete as you are. You don't need a man or a woman to fill any void, because you cannot love when you have a void in you. I have to raise my daughter to be a person, not even a woman or a strong woman or whatever. I need to raise her to be a person. I need to raise my son to be a person, right?
Individual.
Whole, complete by themselves. They do not have to feel that they have to be part of a group. They do not have to feel that they have to belong to a clique, to a class, to a social standard, as long as they know they are mine, they belong to me. I am not ashamed of them. At any point in time, they can open up to me and say, Daddy, this is what is happening, this is who I am. But even then, who they become is their choice eventually, as long as I've laid the foundation. And that's what we need to do. We need to lay a foundation so that they can then build upon that and put a roof over it, so that when somebody else comes in, they come into a complete structure, not somebody who's going to complete them. And that's the nonsense that we need to wash out from our children's minds.
Yo.
100%. Daddy K, you want to add on to what he's saying? Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm eager to say that yes, there's a number of words that he mentioned, complete, individuals, and there's one that I'll differ with. Okay,
Go ahead.
you were saying belonging to you. No human being belongs to any other human being. That is, I'll differ with that wholeheartedly, and I'll say my children belong to themselves. I'm here to guide them in this journey that they're having, that they're taking on, embarking on, until they come of age where they can autopilot themselves. I have to. They don't belong to me.
So Daddy, let me clarify the belonging issue.
Okay.
It's not belonging in the sense that there is some form of ownership, right?
Okay.
It's the belonging of knowing that I have a father who loves me. I have a father whom I can go to and cry to and confide in and chat with and do whatever nonsense that I want to do. I don't want them to feel that they belong they need to belong to a group out there, or that they need to belong to a man or a woman in order for them to be complete. They need to know that they are mine. I am theirs. They can. I often hear my son when he talks to his friends and say, "My daddy will do this." Ne? He's proud that I am his, and I am proud that he is mine. We belong to each other.
Okay.
In that sense, yeah.
Yes, I just needed you to clear that point up because it came out differently. It's like they're mine.
Yeah, it's this thing that we also do. You know how these days whenever you go on social media and you say we need to protect our women, how you would get vilified by some for saying our women. They would say, "Nah, who said we are yours? We don't belong to you." But
so they belong to you now.
No, what I want to say is, if you look at the context of, let's say Gas, you know Kokasi, there are different streets. So the guys and the girls on that street, we belong to each other. No one from another street will come into our street and mess around with those who are there. We will say, ngeke usuke ngale uzoshaya umntana wasestradini sethu. Especially phambi. Or ngeke I won't see you there. Ne? Ushaya umntana wasestradini sethu. That just it's that sense of ownership that we are in this community, we belong together. But even then, within that context of a community, let's say I grew up a Mfulo Nasena lady, ne? So Mfulo, you would then have the guys from Mfulo knowing each other. And when they know each other, you won't stand idly by when your fellow community member, you find them somewhere, maybe in Sentin or in town, and they are stranded. And you know that this is a guy or a girl from Kokas. It's in that sense that you protect all.
Okay.
No, that makes sense.
That context of ownership is clearly explained, Pedisi. Thank you for that.
So, gents, just I see that the time it flew by. Last time I remember it was 1:15. Now all of a sudden it's 5:02. Just a quick question before we get into the actual one. Dedikoketso, Dedizi, when was the last time you saw an elderly male or an elderly father from the previous generation up here? How often?
I'll off the bat say, I can't remember. Even when the elders in my family visit, if my wife is not here, I'll pay her. I'll cook her.
I ask again too deep, but it's about the often part. So you say you can't remember, ne?
Zero.
Let's welcome Dedis Fiso Mkondwana from Mpumalanga and hear him as well. Dedis Fiso?
Dedis Fiso.
Okay, I think he's struggling with the network.
Yeah.
All right, let's give him a chance.
As you were saying, DDT, for me, in terms of frequency,
never. No, don't jump too much into it. Just keep the answer there. You're saying you can't remember. There is it.
When was the last time I saw an elderly or a generation before me, ne? Up here.
When last do you remember, and also how often did they cook as a man or a male?
I'm trying to think of the elderly males that I've come across, but I do know that I'm just trying to think now. Those that I've known who could cook, I've seen them cook. And some of them even cook better than their wives.
Older generations.
Older generations.
Older generations.
Yeah.
All right. So now the next
I've
question.
known of some who do that. Yeah.
So now that question and your answers of Daddy Z, you've known some, but I see you had to go and look in your memory card and look in your files to remember. Daddy K said, yo, I can't remember. It was very rare. Now, my question, obviously, with you guys, my question is, how often do you cook? And with your answer, does it make you a softer dad versus the older guys or not? I'm saying this because someone said, "Bontate bana jwale ba softy man, ke di softy." So from that very same context, your lunch looks nice. Bontate bana se le di softy man. So I want to understand. I know it's a joke, but nowadays things are changing. If we say things must change for women, let's talk about us. Are you a softie? How are you a softie? How it's everything that you know in that context of wapea. Now there's other things in that context. Dedicate.
So before Dedicate comes in, let me give a context on the answer that is on the screen. Udelis Bunyembe is also one of the dads in the picture. His father is like a Zulu man, right?
Okay.
And if he says in 2019 he saw his dad cook, that must have been very special. But nonetheless, let's give.
He raised the bar. He raised the bar there.
Yeah. So yeah, so you wanted to say?
Yes, I was gonna say you should talk to my children and find out when mommy has cooked and we all enjoying the meal, and versus when daddy Koketso has cooked and we all enjoying the meal. You can see it. This is being recorded. This will be online forever. I will not say anything, but yes, I can tell you they know for sure that daddy has cooked. Fingers are being licked. Yeah. When are you cooking again?
When are you cooking again? There is Buse, before we come to your side, Mr. Mkondo Anagunjani.
Ngiyaphila kunjani? Hey.
Hayi siyaphila baba.
Network is a problem this side.
So I think we're struggling with your network.
The network seems to be a bit faint. All right. Daddy Zibuse, let's come back to you, sir.
Okay. Unfortunately for me, I can't lie because my eyes, when they're looking up like this, I'm looking at my wife. So yeah. Now look, there was a time when I used to cook often, but somehow lately I'd fallen into some lazy pattern of not cooking. But these days that's reviving, and I do cook. Not often, but I do cook. And when I do,
last time we saw that that bowl of noodles that you made, and we commended you for that. Well done. You tried. We give you for effort.
No man, I cooked last night. It was mince and the Chinese noodles, and then I'd warmed up the rice for the boys. It's just that the mint had just too much salt. So I did last night. I cooked.
So right. Now we know who can
visit you for supper.
Too much salt, you said.
Yeah.
I'm saying we know who can cook better now. Too much salt.
I won't lie. My wife can cook. The way she cooks, when we started staying together, I think I was wearing size 28. In a space of a week, I gained weight and my
28.
pants couldn't fit. That's how good a cook she is.
All right, gentlemen.
Oh, that's
Just
how much an eater you are. But
sorry,
in any
Jolly,
case, I'm just kidding.
I'm going to cut you guys. I'm going to cut. Otherwise, we're going to debate the best cook. The only way to settle this is for us to cook, and then we'll have our own wife tasting and telling each other which one is best or not. So to sum up
Correct.
today's session, I'm going to close it with a question. You will see if you guys can squeeze in a yes or no as an answer, or if you can leave it for food for thought. It is based on the very same thing that I've just asked you guys. Your team, does these things of us including ourselves in certain things like cooking, does it make us softer dads compared to our dads previously in the past generation? So the link I asked that question is because here's the question: do you think the industries in terms of labor, do you think the work, the employment types that our forefathers did before versus the types of work and employment or labor industries that we do today, do you think it plays a part in them saying dads nowadays have gone soft? Food for thought, yes or no?
No, it doesn't make us soft. That's basically my quick answer. And softness is a subjective issue for me.
100%. DK, food for thought, yes, no?
Is that a yes or no question? Wow.
It's up to you.
That question is loaded. Definitely not.
It is a deep one. It is a deep one.
Yeah, definitely not making us softer, but more complete people, or if I may use that word again, stronger people. Our children will evolve to become more complete people with us participating in such activities, rather than just picking up the spade or taking the lawnmower or going out to go work. Us being involved, do laundry, cook, the whole shebang, pick up the broom,
100%. I hear you. I think then
if I can
just
put it that way.
No, we get it. We hear you. And then just to input just my little bit on that very same topic, I say also the answer is a straightforward no, it does not make us softer. But yes, it does contribute to the types of fathers that we are becoming in terms of generational fatherhood being present. I'm saying this because, for example, previously my father and my grandfather, they were not really involved in management in their organizations. So the thinking strategy behind, or the thinking skills that comes with being a manager, it was not part of their set of skills. So now, with us being managers, being the CEO as fathers, and I'm saying this from as those management skills and understanding how does delegation work, how does it work when you involve yourself with your subordinates, communication, that affects how I communicate. Example, let's say my son is my subordinate. I communicate with him on a respectful channel, considering what there is blah, blah, blah. I think that's what this guy was trying to bring forward, but he said it wrongly when he said, does it make us softer dads? No, it came with certain extra set of skills that are changing us and affecting how we are fathering tomorrow's generation. On that note, gentlemen, I'm going to give you each 30 seconds just to say your farewell to our beautiful audience on this lovely evening. Derizi, thank you again as our producer for joining us. It was an honor and a pleasure having you today. Enjoy it while it lasts. Derizi.
Thanks, Daddy. So mine is simple. Let us accept as parents and as fathers especially that fatherhood is evolving, or parenthood is evolving, and let us move with the times, but let us not lose principles and morals along the way. Thank you.
100%. Nice said. Couldn't have said it better. Did you go get why not for coming late?
Yeah. I'll first thank our producer, for holding the fort, and you as well, DDT, for staying there. And after a postponement 2 weeks ago, and then I have to say I'm late for the show. You guys have held the fort, and I appreciate the inputs it's saying. And as DDZ was saying, it's now time for the modern father to evolve, or to come through and make sure that we evolve the fatherhood role. We no longer need a motho kuka ditena and just get home and say, make it push ataka. Where's the food? We push. Yes, we push. It's a family now. We in a mixture now. We doing things together. Let's push. There's still guys that do that, but push andaga, and it's not to speak down on that, but I'm saying, even if you push andaga, get home and help the wife. Help the wife. I wanna tlo holang a evolve ka bo yena a le one, o say,
Correction.
a
You're not
father
helping.
active. Hey?
Sur, you're not helping the wife, Papa. You are
Yes.
doing things with.
Yeah, you are holding your part. You are not helping
Yes.
the wife.
But as
holding your part.
someone that, as someone on, as someone
like-
doing that,
It's like you say. It's like you saying you are babysitting your children. You
Yes.
can't. You can't
I
be
think-
helping
I
your
think-
wife
I
around
think-
the house.
You are parenting.
Yes.
yes,
You
yes,
are
yes,
doing your part.
accepted correction. I'm saying, as someone that
Yeah.
thinks like that, it's someone that thinks like that, they will think they need to help their wife. That's what I'm
100%.
saying. Even if someone is behaving that way, they
Hmm.
need to do that.
100%.
You get what I'm saying?
All right.
Yes. But
So,
corrected, accepted. You are not helping your wife. You're not babysitting your children.
All right. Point taken. Mwah, lovely.
Thank you.
All right. To our audience, ladies and gentlemen, thank you yet again. It has been an awesome eye-opener. The topic was very heated. It was light-hearted. It was more of a conversation where we were just, talking to each other. But the message of the day, at the end of the day, is understand ukuthi izinto zitshentshile, zajika izinto. We are the millennial fatherhood. We are the next generation of fatherhood. Embrace it. Go with it. And pass it on. On that note, from my side, Dedi Tabiso, Ohamufikwe, Lasbon Yabatlaka, Kerato Lilebua Kaufela, and say thank you very much. Stay safe. Enjoy your evening. Thank you. Siabora.